In today's video, we'll be doing an interactive example McKinsey case study just to get you some really valuable practice. So whenever the interviewer asks any questions, just pause the video and give the question a go before playing to see how I thought about it. So if you've got a pen and paper ready, let's get right into the interview.
So Henry, our client is Talbot Trucks.
Okay.
Talbot Trucks has approached McKinsey for help in assessing the feasibility of manufacturing electric trucks to reduce their fleet's carbon footprint.
Okay.
Talbot Trucks is a European-based, private, original truck equipment manufacturer. They produce and sell trucks across the world.
Yep.
And Talbot Trucks is a leader in quality manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
Its primary customer base includes large trucking companies that own thousands of trucks and owner-operators that are smaller customers owning a fewer trucks.
Mm-hmm.
Trucks are mainly powered by diesel engines today and require carbon-based petroleum fuel.
Yep.
Talbot Trucks is interested in exploring ways to reduce the carbon footprint of their vehicles and has specifically asked about electric trucks, ETrucks.
Yep.
ETrucks and diesel trucks differ in their design, whereas ETrucks have an electronic motor and batteries. Diesel operate on a combustion engine.
Yep.
They also differ in their refueling. So whereas ETrucks are comparatively slow, diesel trucks have faster refueling.
Okay.
The introduction of this new technology is disruptive for the manufacturers as well as the customers.
Okay.
CEO of Talbot Trucks has asked McKinsey for help to determine the attractiveness of investment in e-truck manufacturing for its European market.
Okay, very interesting. Can I just have some clarifying questions on that?
Of course.
So firstly, I was just wondering, what do you exactly mean by a disruptive technology?
Yeah, great question. So disruptive technology is an innovation that significantly alters the way consumers, industries, businesses operate.
Okay.
So in our case, that technology could completely alter the market. If we have an example, one might be the online newspapers taking over the newspaper industry.
Okay. And just a final one. When you say determine the attractiveness of buying e-trucks in this new market, I know you said at the beginning they're looking to reduce their carbon footprint, which is obviously a great thing to do, but I imagine they also don't want to run at a loss. So I was just wondering, do we have any metrics for success? You know, when should I go, yes, this is a great opportunity, when maybe not?
So we don't have any quantifiable metrics for success.
Okay.
But this is something that you'll want to think about, yes.
Okay, alright.
So that leads me to my first question for you. What information would you like to collect to understand the attractiveness for Talbot Trucks to produce and sell electronic trucks in Europe?
Very interesting. Can I just have a minute, just have a think about that?
Yeah, of course.
Perfect, thank you very much. So I thought about splitting the attractiveness of this opportunity into four main areas. So firstly, the market. So what is the size of this market? Do consumers actually want e-trucks? Can we sell them to people? But also where? So where in Europe is a good opportunity to sell e-trucks? Are there certain things that certain governments have put up which sort of is advantageous to sell e-trucks in their country? So we could look at that. But also financials. So firstly, does the company have the investable capital to actually make this big investment and buy all these e-trucks? Because I imagine that's going to cost them a fair bit, so they need a lot of money. But also, what are the costs of running these e-trucks? And are they low enough for our consumers to actually want them and for us to make a good enough profit from selling them? And thirdly, the environment. You know, the whole goal of this is to reduce carbon footprint. So we need to make sure we're actually doing that. Because with electrical vehicles, sometimes the electricity can be gathered from non-renewable sources. So, and actually therefore you're not making as big of an impact as you might want to do. So, you know, looking into how that's actually going to work might be really useful. And finally, risks. So in terms of logistically, you mentioned that these e-trucks will charge a lot slower than traditional trucks. So therefore, will that actually work, and will our consumers be able to make their deliveries on time? But also, what are we going to do with the current trucks? You know, we've got all these traditional petroleum-based trucks. What's going to happen to them? I think that will be, you know, we'd really need to iron out that before we make this big investment. So those are sort of the main four areas I would look at.
Yeah, that's some really really interesting ideas you have there.
Thank you.
So it leads me to my next question. So the team is set about to investigate the operating costs of one truck.
Okay.
So we've got something called the TCO.
Okay.
We want to look at the TCO for the diesel and the e-truck.
Okay.
So using this data, what can you infer about the TCO for the diesel and the e-truck?
Okay. All right. Very interesting. Can I just ask, what does TCO stand for? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, of course. So TCO is the total cost of ownership.
Okay.
So it's an estimate of the direct and the indirect costs involved in acquiring and operating our trucks.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. Can I just have a minute just to have a look at the data and
Yeah,
then
of
see what I
course.
can analyse from it? Thank you. So from looking at the data, I can see that the TCO for e-trucks is lower for the maintenance and the other category, and it's the same for the driver, and the lifetime is the same, so I don't need to worry too much about that. Then looking at the how much it costs to run the trucks, so the fuel and the electricity respectively. So calculating the cost per kilometre for each diesel and e-truck, I find that it's 0.3 euros per kilometre for the diesel ones and 0.15 euros per kilometre for the e-trucks. So actually this data could imply that the TCO is going to be lower for e-trucks, which is looking really promising. However, it doesn't take into account how much they actually cost to buy originally. So I wouldn't say just take this data and say, yes, let's buy loads of e-trucks. We need to look into that before we make that decision.
Yeah, some really interesting points. So we have the category other here.
Okay.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on what kind of costs you think are involved in that.
Okay, so potentially things like insurance, so how much the cars or the trucks cost to insure, then things like taxes and tolls, because I know in Europe they have a lot of, you have to pay to be on certain roads, and I imagine that would be included in the other category.
Yeah, no, really good points. So the data we have here is an estimation.
Okay.
I wanted to get your thoughts on whether you think that's fair, within the other category, that they are the same.
Yeah, good point. They're probably not going to be. So in terms of insurance, I know that it costs more to insure something that costs more. And I imagine e-trucks will have a higher price than regular trucks because it's a more modern technology, things like that. Then in terms of taxes and tolls, I know that a lot of governments are creating policies to incentivise people to buy and use electrical vehicles. So therefore these could actually be lower in countries that are doing things like that.
No, really interesting points. So after conducting a focus group with Talbot truck customers,
Okay.
the team concluded that the total cost of an e-truck needs to be the same as that of a diesel truck in order to be considered an attractive acquisition.
Okay.
Currently, a Talbot truck diesel truck costs €100,000. Assuming the figures here don't change,
Okay.
what is the maximum that Talbot trucks can charge for an e-truck?
Okay. Is that for the TCO to be the
That
same?
is the TCO, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Could I just have a minute just to have a look and try and calculate what that
Yeah,
needs to
of
be?
course.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I've had a look at the data and I've done some calculations, and I think I've worked out how much the maximum price you could sell an e-truck for the customers to actually buy the product. So what I did is I calculated the TCO per year for the diesel and then trying to equate that for the e-trucks. So the way I calculated it for the diesel trucks was, firstly, the driver's cost is monthly, it's 3,000 a month. So I've times that by 12 to get it per year. Then for the cost to buy, it was 100,000 euros to buy it, but it had a lifetime of 4 years. So I've divided that by 4 to get it per year. Then the fuel, that cost 0.3 euros per kilometre, and it drives 100,000 kilometres per year, so I've times them together. And then for the maintenance and other, that was already in a per year, so I didn't have to do anything with that. And then summing all those up, you get the total cost of ownership for a diesel truck is 106,000 euros per year. So I want to equate that for the e-trucks. So in terms of the e-trucks, the driver's costs are the same. The fuel is half the amount because it drives the same distance, and it costs half the amount per kilometre for the electricity. And then for the maintenance, that's 3,000, and other, that's 5,000 per year. So adding them up, you get 59,000. Now, this isn't the total cost of ownership yet, because we haven't taken into account how much the e-truck costs to buy. So if we find the difference between the 106,000 and the 59,000, we get 47,000. And this tells us how much the maximum amount that the cost of the e-truck can add up to per year. So because it's per year and the lifetime is 4 years, we need to times that 47,000 by 4 to get the maximum price of an e-truck that we could feasibly sell it at, and that gets us to 188,000. So that's the maximum price you could feasibly sell an e-truck for to your customers.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll stop the interview there. Thank you very much for your time.
Perfect, thank you. So I really hope this video helps. If you want me to do more of these types of videos, then let me know in the comments and subscribe if you haven't already. But for now, I wish you all the very best of luck with your consulting case interviews.